The Philippines is not just an archipelago of more than 7,000 islands. It is a country of contrasts, where the bustling streets of Manila coexist with quiet fishing villages and modern skyscraper architecture rises directly above ancient colonial churches. Here, every day, you can see how the old intertwines with the new and how traditions live side by side with modern technologies. But behind this colorful facade lies another reality, a world in which money rules everything. Here are those who hold entire sectors of the economy in their hands, and sometimes even the fate of millions of people. These people are not just businessmen, but true dynasties, families whose influence can be felt from the largest shopping malls to the political offices. In this story, we will dive into the world of the three richest families in the Philippines. We will learn how they made their fortunes, what secrets their biographies hold, and how they managed to survive in a world where every economic crisis could spell the end of an entire empire. But let us start with one small detail. In the Philippines, wealth is not just numbers in a bank account. It is power, and the power to open and close ports, launch mega projects, and change entire cities. It is the ability to decide which companies will thrive and which will disappear. And the three families we will talk about possess exactly this kind of power. We will walk through their palaces and offices, look into the stories of their rises and falls, and hear how they began. Sometimes with a small shop, sometimes with an inheritance, sometimes with a daring idea in which no one believed. The first family is the story of how one man turned a small shoe store into the country's largest conglomerate. The second is about a dynasty that, for centuries, has been able to adapt to any conditions and built its business to survive wars, revolutions, and changes of entire eras. The third is about those who, starting with trading food products, created a corporation that now controls everything from aviation to the food industry. But before we dive into their stories, we need to understand what it means to be the richest family in the Philippines. Here, everything is tied to family connections, and corporations are often owned not by one person, but by an entire group of relatives. Running them is almost like running a small state, with its own councils, inheritance rules, and systems of influence. When we said that in the Philippines, wealth is power, and power is control over entire cities, I meant stories exactly like that of the Sy family. Today, everyone knows this name, but 60 years ago, it meant almost nothing. Back then, in the heart of Manila, there was only a small shoe shop where locals came for an inexpensive but good quality pair of shoes. At the origins of this empire stood Henry Sy, a man born into a poor family of Chinese immigrants. As a child, he helped his father in a small shop, but he quickly realized that the future lay in scale. In the late 1950s, he opened a store called Shoe Mart. As you can guess, he sold shoes, but Henry looked further. He saw how in the United States and Japan, the culture of shopping malls was growing, places where people came not only to buy things, but also for the experience. In 1972, he built his first shopping mall. For Manila, it was a shock, a huge complex where you could buy everything from clothes to electronics, eat at a restaurant, or go to the cinema. People came there with their entire families, and it became a habit. Henry Sy understood the most important thing. He was not selling things. He was selling a lifestyle. SM malls began to grow like mushrooms after the rain. Today, there are more than 80 of them across the country, not counting projects in China. But Henry did not limit himself to retail. He founded Banco de Oro, BDO, a bank that is now the largest in the country by assets. Through it, the family controls loans, mortgages, investments, and therefore the development of many other companies. After Henry Sy's death in 2019, management passed to his children. And here we see again that same Philippine model we spoke about earlier. Everything stays in the family, and each child gets their own sphere. One oversees shopping malls, another the banking sector, another real estate, and another the hotel business. The family's fortune in 2025 is estimated at around $16 billion US, and this is not just a number. It is an economic empire that controls trade, finance, and a significant part of urban infrastructure. And the strength of the Sy family lies in the fact that they do not depend on a single industry. Even if retail declines, the bank will continue to generate profit. If the real estate market slows down, the shopping malls will still operate as centers of attraction, and they have embedded themselves into the daily lives of millions of Filipinos. Whether you want to buy sneakers, open a savings account, or simply have lunch in a food court, you will inevitably step into their world. The Tsai family is an example of a state-like system where everything is planned: the economy, logistics, and even leisure culture. But in the Philippines, there are dynasties that built their influence in a completely different way, not through shopping malls, but through control over food and essential products. If the Tsai family gave the Philippines shopping malls and banks, the Tan family gave them food. And not just food, they created a culinary brand that became part of the national identity. In the Philippines, there is one rule: wherever you are, from bustling Manila to a small coastal town, you will almost certainly see the bright sign of Jollibee. The story of this empire began in 1975 when Tony Tan Caktiong, the son of Chinese immigrants, opened a small ice cream shop in Quezon City. It seemed like an ordinary place, one of many, but one day he noticed that customers were far more eager to order the hot meals he offered as a side option than the desserts. Tony made a decision that changed everything. He shifted the format from an ice cream parlor to a fast food restaurant. That was the birth of Jollibee, with its bright yellow and red logo and signature burger adapted to Filipino tastes. Unlike McDonald's and other Western chains, Jollibee focused on local cuisine. The menu featured spaghetti with banana ketchup and sweet sauce, rice with chicken and special marinades, and mango pies. For foreigners, this might have seemed strange, but for Filipinos, it was the taste of home. This very strategy helped Jollibee surpass McDonald's on its own turf. In the Philippines, the American Giant's network exists, but in terms of locations and popularity, it trails behind Jollibee. Tony Tan did not stop at a single brand. His company, Jollibee Foods Corporation, became the owner or co-owner of dozens of restaurant chains: Chowking, Greenwich Pizza, Red Ribbon Bake Shop, Mang Inasal, and many others. In this way, the Tan family gained control over a vast segment of the food market, from pizza and noodles to fast food and pastries. By 2025, their network includes more than 6,000 restaurants worldwide, including in the USA, Canada, the Middle East, and Europe. The Tan family's fortune is estimated at about $3.2 billion US. But their strength lies not only in money, they influence what the entire country eats, which means they shape the culture, habits, and even the health of millions of people. Their companies work with the largest food producers, source ingredients from local farmers, and effectively shape food policy in several regions. The Tan family's influence on the economy is hard to overestimate. They create hundreds of thousands of jobs, and their brands have become an inseparable part of Filipino life. Why do their competitors fear them so much? The secret of the Tan dynasty is incredible flexibility. They react quickly to trends. If Korean cuisine is gaining popularity, a kimchi burger appears on the menu. If young people become interested in veganism, Jollibee launches plant-based patties. They do not chase competitors. They set the direction. Now we have two pillars of the Philippine economy: the Sis, shopping malls and banks, and the Tans, food and restaurants. But there is also a third family that completes this triangle of influence. They control the country's energy, infrastructure, and key communications. When it comes to power, people often think of money, media, or political connections. But real power is infrastructure. It is what a country simply cannot live without. And in the Philippines, for more than a century and a half, such power has belonged to the Ayala dynasty. The story of the Ayala family began in the mid-19th century when two Spaniards, Domingo Roxas and Antonio de Ayala, founded a small trading company in Manila. At that time, they could not have imagined that their descendants would transform this company into an economic giant, influencing every aspect of life in the country. Over time, the Ayala family became integrated into Philippine society, and their business expanded into various sectors, from real estate to telecommunications. Today, Ayala Corporation is a conglomerate operating in several key areas: real estate and urban development. Ayala Land builds entire districts, turning empty lots into modern business and residential centers. Banking, through the Bank of the Philippine Islands, the Ayala family holds influence over the nation's financial flows. Water and energy, Manila Water, and the company's energy projects provide essential resources to millions of people. Telecommunications, Globe Telecom, one of the largest telecommunications operators in the country, is also part of their empire. This means that when you pay for your phone, receive running water, take out a mortgage, or visit a new shopping mall, there is a high chance you are interacting with a company controlled by the Ayala family. By 2025, the family's fortune is estimated at around $3.5 billion US. But their real power is far greater than the raw numbers suggest. The Ayalas are deeply involved in shaping the country's future, from transportation projects to digital infrastructure. They work closely with the government, taking part in the modernization of ports, the construction of expressways, and the development of green energy. Why are they indispensable? The Philippines is an archipelago, a country where cities and islands are connected by bridges, ferries, and communication networks. Any disruption in this system can paralyze the lives of millions. This is where the Ayala family's influence becomes decisive. They create the invisible foundation on which the economy rests. Now we can see the full picture. The CIS control shopping malls, banks, and the distribution of goods. The TANs control food and shape the daily habits of millions. The Ayalas manage infrastructure, water, communications, and energy. These are three forces that do not simply earn money. They define how the country lives, what it buys, what it eats, and how it moves. Their influence is intertwined, and together they form the invisible triangle of power in the Philippines. The world often talks about wealth in terms of luxury, yachts, mansions, and jewelry, but in the Philippines, the wealth of these three families is, above all, about control. Control over the flow of money, goods, information, and resources. It is a power that does not shout its presence, but is felt in the daily lives of millions. And if one day you find yourself in Manila, buy a coffee in an SM shopping mall, have lunch at Jollibee, pay for the internet with your phone, and return to a home built by Ayala land, remember that you are inside a network created over decades by three dynasties that have changed the Philippines forever.